Okay, so you're a business leader, right? And you've got all this data, mountains of it, just sitting there. And you're thinking, there's got to be some valuable insights buried in there, right? Well, that's where IBM's new language model, this Granite 3.0 thing, comes in. We're talking like next generation AI here, folks. Stuff designed specifically for businesses. And get this, it's open source. We've got excerpts from this Tech Target article, and believe me, it's a wild ride.
Yeah, it really does feel like a game changer. Imagine having access to like the same AI tools that these big tech companies have been using, but now it's available to everyone.
Okay, so hold on. Let's back up a bit. What exactly is Granite 3.0? I mean, in plain English.
Think of it like a super powered, I don't know, language whiz or something. It can understand and process information from all those business documents you've got.
Wow.
Spreadsheets, reports, the whole shebang. But here's the thing, the really cool part is that IBM designed this specifically with enterprise data in mind. It's
Right.
not just, pulling random stuff from the internet like some other AI models.
Interesting. So it's like it's tailor-made for the business world.
Exactly. They trained it on a ridiculous amount of data. We're talking over 12 trillion tokens.
12 trillion? Is that like a lot?
Oh yeah, that's massive. And a good chunk of that is code too. It can understand 12 languages and hold on to your hat, 116 programming languages.
116. Seriously.
Yep, no joke.
So, okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent Python, what does that even mean? Give me the practical implications.
It means that Granite it can really dig deep into your data. I'm talking way more depth and accuracy than you're probably used to. Imagine it like going through your sales figures, finding trends that you wouldn't even catch, maybe predicting customer churn, things like that, but with way more accuracy.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. But we've got to go back to this whole open source thing for a minute. I mean, why would IBM just give this technology away? It's like giving away the secret recipe for Coca-Cola.
It seems kind of crazy, right? But it's actually like a really smart move on their part. You see, AI development has always been this big secret, right? But with open source, IBM is basically saying, hey, everyone come on in, let's collaborate and make this thing even better.
So it's like crowdsourcing AI development.
Exactly. Imagine the possibilities. Developers from all over the world,
Yeah.
all pitching in, making Granite more powerful. It's like there's this analyst, Andy Thurai, over at Constellation Research. He said, IBM is betting that the future of AI is open.
That's a pretty bold statement.
All right. Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's also kind of exciting, right? This kind of open approach could really shake things up in the AI world.
Oh, absolutely. This could be huge. I mean, we're talking about making AI accessible to businesses of all sizes, not just these big tech giants.
So it's like kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's not even like just about making it more accessible, right? It's about all that talent, all that creativity out there. You open it up, you let everyone contribute, and who knows what we can achieve.
That's what I love about this whole open source idea. Is like they're saying, look, we've built something awesome here, but we know it can be even better, right? Like let's all work together on this.
Yeah, 100%. And IBM is already talking about some pretty interesting applications for Granite. Like imagine customer service, right? But powered by AI.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about those clunky chatbots we have now. I'm talking about something that actually gets you, understands your needs, provides solutions, 24/7.
Okay, now that's something I think we all want. Better customer service. Who doesn't want that, right? But you mentioned earlier that Granite is really good with code. So, like, how does that actually play out in the real world?
Think about all the time developers spend just like writing code, fixing bugs, all that stuff. Now imagine an AI assistant that can like understand your code, tell you how to make it better, maybe even write some of it for you.
Wait, hold on. Is that even possible? That sounds like something out of like a sci-fi movie.
It's becoming real, my friend, real fast.
Hmm.
IBM is already using Granite in, get this, their next generation Watson X code assistant.
Okay, for those of us who don't speak like fluent JavaScript, what does that even mean? What does this code assistant actually do?
Imagine you've got like a coding buddy, right?
Yeah.
But this buddy is like super powered. You need to write a really complex algorithm. Boom, code assistant to the rescue. Stuck on a bug. No problem. It probably already spotted.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. But it also kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, is AI gonna put developers out of a job?
It's a fair question, definitely.
Yeah.
But from what I'm seeing, these AI tools, they're more about helping us, not replacing us entirely. It's more like a collaboration. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Human ingenuity meets AI efficiency.
So instead of replacing developers, it's more like it makes them even better at what they do.
Exactly. It frees them up to focus on the more, the creative stuff, the strategic stuff, the things that AI just, it can't replicate, at least not yet.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better, I gotta be honest. But let's talk competition for a second. I mean, IBM's not the only one doing AI, right? How does Granite, stack up against everything else out there?
Oh, yeah. It's a crowded field for sure. And, IBM might be a giant in the tech world, but they're not always seen as the fastest moving, especially when it comes to AI.
Yeah, it's that whole first mover advantage thing we were talking about earlier, right?
Exactly.
So how does IBM, convince businesses to go with Granite? What makes it stand out?
Well, for one, that whole open source thing we were talking about, that's huge. It brings a level of transparency and collaboration that a lot of businesses seem really like that,
Hmm.
especially those who have been burned in the past by
Mm.
like those closed systems, the ones where you're kind of stuck with whatever the vendor gives you.
Yeah, yeah. It's like choosing Android versus Apple's iOS, right?
Perfect analogy. With open source, you're not locked in. You can customize it, adapt it, you can even contribute to it, right? It's about freedom and flexibility.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But it can't just be about being open, right? I mean, the technology itself has to be top notch.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And this is where IBM is really, they're really betting on Granite's focus on enterprise data. Remember how we talked about how it wasn't trained on the entire internet like some of those other AIs out there?
Right, right.
It was trained on the kind of data that businesses like, yours use every single day. Documents, spreadsheets, code, all that stuff.
So it's like having an AI that speaks your business's language.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
what does that mean? It means more accurate insights, more relevant recommendations, and potentially, a lower risk of bias.
Hmm.
Because you're not dealing with all that noise and randomness of the internet. You're laser focused on what matters for your business.
Okay, that's a really compelling argument, I gotta say. But with any new technology, there's got to be some, I don't know, some potential downsides, right? Some challenges. You know what they say, if it seems too good to be true.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And you're right to be cautious. Every technology has its limitations. And open source AI, it's no different.
So, what are some of those potential pitfalls, things that businesses should be thinking about if they're considering Granite or open source AI in general?
One thing that often comes up is security. You think about it, right? When anyone can access the code, anyone can change it, there's always a risk, right?
Hmm.
Someone could introduce vulnerabilities, maybe by accident, maybe, on purpose. You never know.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like leaving the blueprints to your house out in the open, right?
Exactly. Now, to be fair, the open source community, they're usually pretty good at spotting those vulnerabilities, patching them up quickly, often way faster than those traditional software companies.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? More transparency, faster improvements, but also you got to be more vigilant about security.
Yeah, for sure. It's a shared responsibility, right? Businesses need to step up their security game, be proactive, and the open source community, they got to keep that commitment to code integrity, transparency, all that good stuff.
So it's a team effort, basically,
Pretty much.
to make sure that open source AI stays, secure and trustworthy. What other challenges do you see? I mean, are there any other potential roadblocks?
Another one is the risk of, I don't know, fragmentation, I guess you could call it.
Fragmentation?
Yeah, you've got all these developers, right?
Mhm.
All these different organizations potentially all working on the same project. It can get messy.
Like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And you know what happens then, right?
yeah.
Compatibility issues, general confusion.
So how do you avoid that? How do you prevent that kind of chaos in the open source world?
Strong governance, clear guidelines for the beginning. IBM, they're leading this project, right? They need to set the standards, define the processes, make sure everyone's on the same page.
So it's about finding that balance, being open to new ideas, encouraging creativity, but also maintaining some kind of order, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Too much control and you stifle innovation.
Yeah.
Too little and it's a free-for-all. Nobody wants that.
Speaking of, well, maybe not monsters, but this whole conversation about AI,
Yeah.
about how fast it's changing, it makes you wonder, where is this all headed, right?
Yeah.
What's the big picture here?
The million-dollar question, right? Predicting the future is, it's always a risky business,
Hmm.
especially in tech where things change so fast. But if I had to gaze into my crystal ball.
Please do tell.
Well, I think it's safe to say that open source AI, it's not going away. In fact, I think we're just getting started.
So we can expect to see more companies following IBM's lead, embracing open source as like a core part of their AI strategy.
I think it's very likely. The benefits are just too big to ignore.
Yeah.
We're talking about like transparency, collaboration, wider access to these powerful tools. It's not even just about saving money, although that's definitely a plus, right?
Hmm.
It's about tapping into this global network of talent, accelerating innovation.
That's what I find so fascinating about this whole open source movement. It really feels like a true paradigm shift.
Well, it totally is. And if IBM plays their cards right, Granite could be like the catalyst for that change.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. But before we get carried away with predictions and stuff, let's bring it back down to earth for a second. We've covered a lot today. So we've talked about all these amazing possibilities, but for the folks listening, for the business leaders, what's the key takeaway here? How do you actually put this into practice?
Right, right. It's not enough to just, understand the tech, right?
Yeah,
You got to know how to use it.
exactly.
Think of Granite as like I don't know, a powerful engine. But you get to decide what kind of car you're going to build around it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I like that. So it's not about being at the mercy of some big tech company's vision.
Nope, not at all. This is about like taking control, right?
Yep.
Customizing, collaborating, figuring out what works for you.
Okay, so for our listeners who are out there thinking, all right, this is cool, but where do I even begin? What would you tell them? What's the first step?
Honestly, just like dive in.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to experiment. Check out Granite 3.0. IBM's got a ton of resources on their website. See if it like aligns with your goals.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at how accessible it all is.
Yeah, the future of AI is open, right? That's what you were
Yeah,
saying earlier.
that's right. And it's looking pretty bright.
I like the sound of that. Well, on that note, I think we're going to have to wrap up this deep dive into IBM's open source AI play.
This was fun. Always a pleasure chatting about this stuff.
The pleasure was all mine. But before we go, one last thought for our listeners, something to chew on. As open source AI, things like Granite, become more common, the question is, how are you going to use it? How are you going to harness its power to drive innovation, transform your business? Until next time.